Hello, we're going to start chapter 6, which is working with roots and radical expressions. This first section, I'm going to show you on the graphing calculator how to get radicals. So the first part, notice right here in this first column there's that square root button. So if you click second and then that square root button, we can find the square root of any number. For example, if we want to find the square root of 100, we do that second and then that square root button, 100, click enter, and we get 10. If we want to find the cube root button, we're going to click this math button, and then notice it's the fourth button down. So we can just click 4 or scroll down to 4, and then that cube root button comes up, and then we can find the cube root of whichever number we'd like to. So if we want to find the cube root of 8, we can click enter and get 2. The fourth root button or the fifth root, any of those, they're less common, so there's not a button for it. So if we want like the fourth root, let's say, we're going to type 4 first and then go to math, and then notice where there's that x root. We're going to go down to it or click on 5, click enter, and that means that's the fourth root of, and then we can find the fourth root of whichever number we want to. So let's go through some examples. So for this first one, it's the cube root of 0.008. So our cube root button, we're going to go to math, scroll down to 3, click enter, and we have 0.008, which is 0.2. So we get that 0.2. We try the next one. We go to math. It's the cube root of negative 1,000, and we get negative 10. And again, what that cube root button means is what number can we multiply by itself 3 times, so negative 10 times negative 10 times negative 10 is negative 1,000. Or 0.2, if we multiply that together 3 times, 0.2 times 0.2 times 0.2, that equals 0.008. Again, we're not multiplying this number by 3, but we're multiplying it by itself 3 times. So then the next one, how you can do a fraction, there's a couple different ways. We can do that math button, and go to the cube root, click enter, and then I would just put that fraction in parentheses. So 1 divided by 27, put parentheses, and it gives you a decimal. So then to go back to a fraction format, just click math. FRAC stands for fraction, click enter, enter, and it'll change it to a fraction for you. A lot of times if their original problem is a decimal, they want the answer as a decimal. If the original one is a fraction, they want the answer as a fraction. Alrighty, this next section, we're going to be taking the fourth root. Okay, so the fourth root isn't as common, so we're going to have to go to math, and then notice we're going to have to use that number 5. But before we can do that, we want to click 4 to find the fourth root. So fourth root of 1. So 4, and then we're going to go to math, go down to that x root, click 4, math, and then x root, and then of 1, click enter, and then that is just 1. Notice how I have a plus or a minus sign in front of it. The reason for that, whenever the root is an even number, we're going to need that plus and minus sign in front of it because it could be positive or it could be negative. So then for this next one, we want the fourth root of negative 0.0001. And we get a non-real answer, so then that is just, we're going to put none, or no solution. And then the next one, we have the 14th root, or the fourth root, goodness, of 16 over 81. So we click the 4, graph clear to get out of it, 4, math, our x root, and then 16 divided by 81, put it all in parentheses so it knows that we're taking the fourth root of that entire answer. Oh, syntax error. So I need that other parentheses. Let's go and do this again. So parentheses 16 divided by 81, and then it should work out for us. It gives us the decimal, so we're going to go to math, have fraction highlighted, click enter, enter, and then we get our 2/3. And again, it's to the even root, so we need that plus or minus sign. Alrighty, these last ones, we're taking the 5th root. So again, we're going to click 5, go to math, go down to that x root, and then 0. So the 5th root of 0 is just 0. The next one, we want the 5th root of -1. We get -1. And lastly, the 5th root of 32 equals our +2. And again, a way that we could check our answer, if we take 2, we multiply that together 5 times, we should end up getting 32, which matches. Alrighty, this next part we're going to start adding in variables with it. The variables we will not be able to do on the graphing calculator, so we want to make sure that we understand what a radical actually is doing. So if you can think back to probably middle school when you had to do the factor trees, we're going to be making factor trees. So if we think about the factor tree of 16, that would be 4 times 4, and then 4 is 2 times 2, and then the other 4 is 2 times 2. So if we expand this out into its prime numbers, we get 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And then we have 8 x's, so if we expand that out into 8 x's. Notice it's a square root, so if there's no number there, we think of it as a square root or a 2 there. Okay, so we're putting everything in groups of 2. So there's 2 2's, so we can put that in a pair, or a circle. 2 2's here, so put that in a pair. 2 x's here, 2 x's here, 2 x's here, and 2 x's here. So however many pairs there are, we're going to bring those out. So there's 1 pair of 2, so we can bring that 1 2 out. There's another pair of 2, so we can bring that 2 out. And then there's 1 2 3 4 pairs of x's, so we can bring out 4 x's. So then if we simplify this down, we get 2 times 2 is 4, and we have 4 x's, so x to the 4th. So this next one, notice we have the cube root of a to the 6th, b to the 9th. So that means since it's the cube root, instead we're putting them in groups of 3. So if we expand it all out, we have 6 a's and 9 b's. So we have 3 a's here, 3 a's here. So we have 2 groups, so we can bring out 2 groups. So a to the 2nd power. We have 3 groups of b, so b to the 3rd power. Another way that you can do this if you don't want to expand it all out is, let's say it's the cube root, so we're just dividing these by 3. So it would be 6 divided by 3 is just 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Up here, we would just take this 8 and divide it by its square root, so divide by 2. And that's how we get that x to the 4th. Now make sure you don't take the number 16 and divide by 2 and think that that would be an 8. It's not going to work for the numbers, it will only work that way for the variables. This next one, it's the 4th root, so if you think of it in expanded form, we have 8 x's, we have 12 y's, we put them in groups of 4, so we have 4 x's here, 4 x's here, we have 4 y's, 4 y's, and 4 y's, so we have 2 groups of x's, so x to the 2nd power, we have 3 groups of y's, so y to the 3rd power. Or we can just divide by 4 because it's the 4th root. So 8 divided by 4 is 2, so x to the 2nd power. And then 12 divided by 4 is 3, so y to the 3rd power. And that would be our final answer. And this last one, we have 81, so we can think of it as 9 times 9. We have a pair of 9's, and it's a square root, so we're putting them in pairs. A pair of 9's, so we can bring that 1 pair out. And then we have 2 pairs of x's, so x to the 2nd power. Or another way, we just divide this by 2 and get that x to the 2nd power. The 81, that part, we can put just the square root of 81 into our calculator to get 9 also.